Welcome to episode 153. And have you ever felt like the business actually owns you? That's exactly where Don Hett found himself after founding CleanKings 13 years ago. What began as a cleaning business grew successfully, but at one point he realised he'd become a prisoner of his own company. Rather than staying stuck, he made the deliberate shift to implement systems, clarify processes, and hire leaders who were smarter than him in key areas. So over time, CleanKings evolved into a business that runs with a management team rather than relying on Don to be hands-on every day. Since then, he's gone on to found EarthyTabs, a sustainability-focused startup that has transformed the way that businesses use cleaning chemicals. So rather than shipping chemicals as liquids in these huge containers, they're in cleaning tablets, which reduce costs by up to 40% and also remove up to 95% of plastic while also saving storage spaces. So, in this episode, we explore leadership, delegation, culture, risk taking, and what it really means to move from an operator to a visionary. Don also shares the mindset shifts that allowed him to build multiple ventures without losing sight of his purpose. There is so much practical wisdom in this conversation, especially if you're a founder who feels like your business can't work without you. So let's get started. Welcome, Don.
Thanks, Karen. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're more than welcome. I'd love to know from you, what's the moment that you realised that the business didn't need to rely on you as an individual owner anymore?
Well, at some point, I got to become a prisoner of my own company, and that's the moment that I realized that I have to at some point get myself out of it. So the next probably year and so, I put systems in place to basically run the business, processes in place to sort of like streamline the operations, then put the right peoples behind. And then that's the moment that I knew that like, okay, now it's time for me to get out of it.
And what kind of systems we're talking, like just systems like processes or computer systems as well?
Well, technology systems plus operational systems, then SOPs when it comes to processes, like really like streamline. Everyone knew like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
What should I do next? Instead of like asking from someone or like going and having a look at someone or even like double checking with someone. So it's yeah. So then
That
only the people
clarity piece.
that clarity piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've spoken to a lot of business owners, and it's kind of seen as this utopia that I can have this business running on its own.
Yes.
But then there's this huge emotional connection
100%.
to our businesses.
Yes.
So
Yes.
the way you just described it was pretty clinical of putting systems and processes in the
Yes.
right people. But what was the emotional kind of
It was
impact?
really hard. Like I mean, because this is your baby, right? Like I mean, CleanKings was my first baby, and it's still to the date is my first baby, right? So that emotional attachment is always there, and it will always be there, right? Until I exit it. Even I exit it, maybe even I still have that bit of an emotional connection to it. But I think it's if you can find that right people to run it and people more smarter than you actually to run it, I think that's where that peace of mind come into you. So that's what I have it right now. I mean, I have a trusted board runs the show, so obviously I trust them, and I obviously sit on the board and I can see the progress. I can see where the company is heading, the direction. So I think that gives you a bit of an emotional. Yes, it's emotionally still attached, but that emotional peace of mind is also there as well, and the ability to have that freedom to go and do other things
Which you've definitely done, which we'll get
yes,
to.
yes.
And I'd love to know as part of that. So you said, you're going to hire people that are smarter than yourself. And, I've had other podcast guests say the same thing, which again is something really difficult for people to do when they own businesses
Yes.
because they're used to being the person that, knows everything, owns everything. So how did you know to do that? Like, what was the moment? Had you made mistakes before, or did you get advice from someone? How did you know I actually need to get people that are better at this than me?
100%. Like I made tons of mistakes, like I didn't know a lot about like sometimes the tender writing to, even like, sometimes like how to approach these large scale contracts to, a lot of things, right? And what I realized is that like I'm not supposed to know everything. That was the moment of truth. And obviously my mentors told me like, like, hey, like you really need to like look at bring talent into the business so that you can actually grow in the way that you're supposed to grow. Your potential is there, but then you're not capitalizing on it. So that's where I realized like, okay, it's unless I go and find it, unless go and I looking, I won't be able to find that.
Yeah.
Then it's a process of like interviewing, meeting people, just to really see whether what they're saying is what they really are, all of that, right?
Yeah.
Then again come back to their values, their morals, what they stand for, all of that as well, right?
Yes.
Not only the skill set. So
Yeah, and that's a good point because sometimes we look at the skills and think, well, that person must be amazing, but then they come in and behaviorally it's
yep,
not
they
that
destroy
good.
the culture.
Yeah.
Then it affects back to these high performing teams that we have. So the culture and then maintaining the culture is super important as well. So
So
bringing
how did you test for that? How did you work out that they were the right person
yeah,
from a value standpoint?
I hire slow,
Mm.
but then I fire fast. So
Yeah.
that's the policy. But then like hiring slow can be sometimes like really challenging when we have a bit of a role to fill very very quickly. So it's a bit of like a gut feeling sometimes. Like
Yeah.
sometimes it works, sometimes yes it might not work. But then but when it comes to strategic hires and especially my co-founders and all that, I spend like so much of time just to really understand whether they are the right people for this journey, because I consider entrepreneurship as a journey.
Yeah.
So it's if you go with the right people, it's a beautiful journey.
Yeah.
If you go with the wrong people, right, you know the drill.
Absolutely. I will say I've seen that a few times.
Yes.
So how did you do that mental shift from being a doer to a leader of leaders?
It's a great question. I think like when it comes to that mental shift, how I prepared myself was that okay, I knew that if I wanted to grow, I can't just be doing the operational as be also become a visionary. So I had to pick which one I'm really really good at, and then delegate everything else back into the right people with that right skill set, with the right attitude, and then obviously give them incentivize for their efforts, not only with salaries and all that, but then also with some equity, so that they actually feel that they can actually part of this whole family, part of this whole process. But that mental shift came from my growth mindset.
Yeah, and I've heard people that have said, I don't want to give equity, they don't want to give a part of their business. But then if you're giving, no equity on a very small piece of pie versus having a very large piece of pie and giving a bit of equity, then actually you're getting more of the pie, right?
Yes,
So,
yes. I mean, people need to feel valued. That's the most important thing. And then identifying what they really value is also, because for some people the shares is nothing.
yeah.
For them, like I mean, some people that we got it into EarthyTabs, like I mean, they join for the purpose and the impact that we're making.
Yes.
So for them, like feeling that like okay, they actually contributing to that impact, and then constantly reminding them about is their reward. Yes, of course they get the benefits and all that, but for them that's so it's identifying those things as a leader is another key thing as well. Like you really need to understand what motivates them, what drives them,
Yes.
and if you can find that, um, it's handy.
Yeah. And you mentioned delegation before. So, have you seen people that have kind of sabotaged delegation without meaning to? Or where do you see delegation works well?
Delegation works for me personally is when I made my mind allowing the other person to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes, because you're dealing with another human being,
Yeah.
and if you accept that, It's much better. And then obviously I spent a lot of time with my CEO who took over my role with CleanKings, and I sometimes didn't try to micromanage him, but I'd rather empowered him to sort of like make mistakes and learn from his mistakes. But at the same time, I was there if he need help, if he need. But even sometimes I can make mistakes too. I'm,
Yeah.
I'm a human being too, right? So allowing that and then make like peace with it, and then obviously like allowing those mistakes to happen gave him, whoever my delegated person who's taking over my role, to act confidently, and then obviously build up his confidence level, to the level. So I think, yeah, that's what it
Yeah,
is.
so having that autonomy, but then the safety net. But like you said
Yes.
before, the clarity piece has got to be
Yes.
there
Yes.
first.
Yes. It all links, right? Like
Yes.
I mean, progress with clarity is what we always after.
Yes, absolutely. Now you have a lot of team members that you've hired over the years.
Yes.
So how would you describe what good looks like on day one, and how do you make that consistent when you're hiring people?
So when I hire, I don't really look at their resume. How I look at it is I give them a couple of scenarios, or maybe even I ask them like, tell me about your life story, and then I really dig deep into it. And then obviously I sort of like analyze, like based on the role. Okay, how did you solve X amount of, like, I mean, X problem,
Yeah.
and then the way that they dealt with it. I looked at their attitudes and all of those things, right? But consistency about hiring is like really come down to values, morals, and then I simply ask them like, okay, what, I'm not asking them what you bring to the table. I'm asking them why we should hire you, and why, like, I mean, how do you see yourself within us? And if they see themselves with us growing, and if they think that like, okay, they can add value to us, that's where the consistency happens, because every hire we ask those same repeatable questions, but then when they come on board, we treat them equally across the board, across all six silo ventures. It's the same culture, that can do culture, that can do attitude, and then obviously like welcoming the team, welcoming the people, the way that everyone is pretty much like, we have a very supporting culture. Yep. And then our team is kind of like cross working across projects. So like say my social media team, they look after six, like I mean, across all the six silo ventures social media, not just one brand.
Yeah.
So that again supports like inter-company cultures as well, to sort of like sync really well.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned before about supportive culture, because I think as much as having those 6 different ventures could give them a lot of challenge, it can also add a lot of complexity as well. So how do you keep people in roles in those sort of high pressure, complex situations?
Good question. Again, like I think like high pressure. When I hire, I kind of like get a bit of a sense whether like these people, they have the ability to work under pressure, and I'm very upfront about it as well when I'm hiring. Like I'm not saying that like, hey, this is not just a role; it's gonna be a challenging role, and most of the time it all tied back to like how, like I mean, how happy they're working in that role, what their enthusiasms look like, how much dedication that they have for their role, whether are you a target oriented person, are you a goal oriented person, how pride you are with what you do, and like, and then look at like what's their ultimate motive of like, let's say most of our sales staff, they're really about hitting those targets, and so and that's fine, and obviously we reward for them for that, and that brings us the results.
Yeah.
But building that high performance culture for us is all about like, it's a combination of all of those things, not just one singular element. Yeah. But high pressure, people don't like really, let's say now you're under pressure, if the other person can support you in some way, that supporting culture helps that high pressure, high performing, high pressure as well. So yeah.
Absolutely. Now, your latest venture is more of a purpose-based business with EarthyTabs. and it's all about that measurable impact. So, how do you show the proof with those green claims, and why do you think it's important?
It's important because I, first and foremost, I experienced that. So when I wanted to find a solution for the plastic like container problem with the chemicals, I had to manually go and calculate what's the impact going to look like if I do this change within my business. There was no way I could measure the what's the switch going to look like. So I had to ask all my 21 partners across national to go and count how many cans that we use on a monthly basis. I just had to look at my accounts to see how much we spent on chemicals to really get a bit of a measurable impact. Then only I can compare apples with apples and see, hey, I switched from bulky chemical cans, plastic chemical cans to these tablets, and now because of that switch, this is the measurable impacts. There was no way to do that.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't
So that frustration, that your personal frustration, is what led to find a solution, and that's why we didn't stop at just like creating and formulating these tablets only. We created a solution, a tech solution, a impact calculator at the back of it, so that businesses, when they switch from bulky chemical cans to us, they order through our platforms, through the ordering, through the consumption. We calculate 7 different, sustainability metrics.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I think your story, which I mentioned in the intro as well, that experience in running the cleaning business to then going into this product design for EarthyTabs. So can you tell us a bit more about that and why you decided to head
Oh, well,
down this track?
so this is my second product design side of things. So I founded Amos, House of Amos, and Amos Originals, and Amos Merch, which is the House of Amos, which is a fashion label, and then we expanded into merch services as well, which I exited back in August 2024. So that was actually my first product design or product based business experience, but I had a lot of experience in that sense. I mean, but that was kind of like a bit of a direct to consumer model. But then we went into the corporate side of things through the merch. But that experience definitely helped me to formulate this. But what I really found out as when I designing the EarthyTabs is that I didn't stop at just being a product business. I actually bring the technology into that space as well, and then I combine the product with technology so that it's becoming a much more strengthier product.
Yeah.
I'm now following the same passion to my wellness product, which is the Hella Shots. I'm doing the same thing there. I'm just bringing the product, but at the same time, I'm combining that with technology, so it gives more value to the whoever the consumer, whether our target market is. So yeah.
Awesome. What's been the most difficult or challenging part of starting this new startup, and what's been easier than expected?
Definitely the easier than expected is my learning curve. So my experience throughout the years. Because what I realize is that like every business, if you really look at the fundamentals, it's the same.
Yeah.
Right. The hardest one is that like sometimes like when you like finding like the right people to do it, sometimes like dealing with different people, like aligning them for that common goal, it's one of the hardest because it's a startup. So a lot of people are not comfortable in that startup space.
Yeah.
And there's a saying like I always tell to my co-founders, like treat a startup like a startup. And sometimes like people like try to spend a lot, like without you even getting that first dollars into back into as revenues, like you have like your spending spree, right? So those things are the most I've seen in the startup space. But since I'm kind of like driving the vision and the growth and all of that, so I kind of like try to keep that under control. But treating a startup as a startup is the hardest part for a lot of people.
Yeah. Now, going back to where we started, if someone's listening is thinking, geez, I want to be able to do that. I want to have my business running without me so I can, do these other fun projects over here. What's one thing they should stop doing?
Stop doing. Oh, I think the one thing that they should stop doing is they should actually look at like overthinking it, right? Because when I look back, I had a plan. I had a plan as stages. So the first stage was to get to be an entrepreneur, learn the game. Second stage was to sort of like create a bit of a cash cow, so it allows me to do what I really want to do. The third phase is actually where I'm right now, where I'm building my ventures that I'm really passionate about. So having a clarity is the important thing, but then overthinking is what you shouldn't do. Like have a plan, but if you overthink it, overthink kills your momentum. It kills sometimes your possibilities, and then sometimes like it can kills your dreams too.
Yeah, just got to go forward.
Yes, yes. I mean, once you go forward, maybe it might work, it might not work, but then at least you know that you went forward. Yeah.
And finally, is there one thing that you wish that you knew earlier about running a business or being a leader?
Being a leader, I think one of the things that I heard from one of my mentors is that being a leader is all about you are not supposed to lead from the front, you're supposed to lead at the back. So you basically are the rock at the back, so that like your stars can shine, be the moon. So that's the leadership side of things. One thing I would tell to my younger self is take more risks. Because back in the day I was very risk averse. I was very comfortable. Like I'm not where I am right now back in the day and when I was started, and the opportunities were so much there. I didn't took it
Yeah.
back in the day.
Yeah.
But now I'm all about I'll take the opportunities, but at the same time, don't really try to work on the fear of missing out either. Because sometimes when you try to do too many things without really looking at your passions and whether you can really do something about there, your fear of missing out is what playing you.
Yeah, so maybe it's going back to that plan, like you were saying,
Yes.
and then making sure that you're moving forward
Yes.
on it, and perhaps taking some more risks.
Yes, yes, yes.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Don. It's been great to chat with you. How can people best get in touch with you?
Well, so my group is like www.6silo6 with the number 6 silo.com. My LinkedIn is Don Hett, like Instagram, Don Hett Official. Can reach me in all of those channels. And yeah, my email is don@6silo.com.
Excellent. And we'll put all the links to those in the show notes as well. So thanks so much for joining. I really
Thanks,
enjoyed
Karen.
the conversation.
Appreciate that. Yeah, had a great chat.
Excellent. And for those that are listening, if you've received value from this episode, I'd love it if you could leave a rating or a review over Apple Podcasts or Spotify, so someone else can also find the episodes to help with their business. Episodes released on Mondays, so click subscribe and you'll be notified of when it's available. If you have any feedback, questions or ideas for future episodes, head on over to amplifyhr.com.au or connect with me on LinkedIn and we can start a conversation.